Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name, congenial, convivial, and amiable. As always, great to have you in the conversation. 888-589-8840. You may be familiar with Esquire magazine. They blogged about me yesterday, talking about my comments about this statue to Satan that's been proposed for the Oklahoma state capitol. Right, they want their statue to Satan, to this demon god, this goat-headed god, because folks have put a Ten Commandments monument on the state capitol grounds. And I talked about the fact this is not harmless. Satan actually exists. This is a form of outright idol worship. It's like having an altar to Baal in the temple of Yahweh in the days of ancient Israel. It's no different. And it's not harmless because he exists. And you don't want children sitting up in the lap of an idol that's there to represent a malevolent, deceptive destroyer of a supernatural being. You just don't want that. So anyway, Esquire referred to me as a radiomaniac in connection with this, and somebody who is lighting his hair on fire and suggesting that you do the same. So that's going right there in the resume. Esquire magazine says about Brian Fisher, he is a radiomaniac who is lighting his hair on fire. Now, here's a piece of good news. This is kind of an uptick for the day. It's kind of a neat story. Jeff found this for me. Jeff, do you have a copy of this story in front of you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, you found this story, and I think you've got some audio to go with it. So before we go back to the phones, why don't you kind of tell us about this neat story? We talked yesterday. You know, you brought us that story, Jeff, about the waitress who was going to have to take a semester out of school because she didn't have the money. She'd had a really tough life. She's working her way through college. She's very chipper. She was up. She was sunny. She wasn't moping. She wasn't whining. She wasn't burdening people with their problems. But these people come into the restaurant and they just started chatting with her, and they began to draw out of her some of her life story. And one of them was an alumnus of the same college she went to and wound up leaving her a $1,000 tip and a $5,000 check to the school so she could go back to school the next semester and not have to take a semester off. It's just one of those kind of really heartwarming stories.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a Bible college, and so the alum that gave her the gift, he's a Christian, so he was doing it in the name of Christ. She received it in the name of Christ. She gave all the glory to God. So it's just one of those kind of neat stories about what God does in the hearts of people whose lives are open to them. Now, I don't know anything about the spiritual orientation of the people that are involved in this story, but it's just kind of a neat thing. So tell us a little about the story you came across.
Another one of those stories that kind of remind you of the way America used to be. You know, just a good old old-fashioned goodness and compassion and looking out for your fellow man. There was a gentleman. Well, maybe we should play the clip first, so we'll go ahead with that.
Okay.
Many people do everything they can to avoid courts, but not the man we met who goes by the name of James. He walked nearly 29 miles overnight in record temperatures.
I was absolutely freezing.
On Tuesday morning, as Atlanta temperatures dipped to 6 degrees, he set out at 1 a.m. to walk to Lilburn City Hall and traffic court, some 29 miles away.
Yeah, so now the first thing we need to point out, 6-degree temperature in Georgia to people that live in Georgia, that's a lot colder feeling than 6 degrees the people that live in Minnesota.
And that is a lot. If you ask me, that's a lot of catastrophic global warming, too.
Well, he apparently got in an accident and received a ticket, a citation for it. He only had enough money to pay the citation. So he ended up having to leave at 1 in the morning to start walking 29 miles to make it to court on time.
Now, his car apparently had been wrecked or totaled in that accident, so he didn't have wheels.
Right. That's how he ended up getting the citation as well.
So he's got a citation at a courthouse that's 29 miles from home.
Right.
It's 6 degrees, and he has no wheels.
Right. And not even enough money. He had just enough for the ticket itself. He didn't even have enough money for the bus. So he went to court. He made it.
So he walked 29 miles on the coldest day of the year in 2 decades
Yeah.
in order to do the right thing and take care of this traffic citation.
Yeah, but that's not the end of the story. The police also, when they opened the doors and he was there waiting, the police kind of came across his story or whatever, and they knew that he was going to have to walk back 29 miles in that. So they pulled together their money and they bought him the cab fare home, which was, I think, $60 or $80, something like that.
Yeah, it was, according to the story I got in front of me, $80 cab fare. And bottom of the story, and maybe we do know something about the spiritual orientation of these guys. According to this story, what's the last thing that this recipient of this generosity said, this James?
He said, "Thank God for these officers."
So he knew, and he was fighting back tears when he said that. So he knew ultimately what the source of this goodness was.
You wonder why they didn't just give him a ride, but then I kind of poked around and found out that not only did they still have to work there in the court, that they weren't allowed to use the vehicles for that purpose.
Yeah, I'm sure they got policies against that.
They paid out of their own pockets. But there is a tail end of this, too. I've got a little more audio. Let's listen to that.
James is back at his downtown Atlanta shelter. He says the one thing that still bugs him about all this, after all his effort to get to court Tuesday morning, his public defender never showed.
So the public defender, he's got a car, probably lives in town. He's a no-show. Guy walks 29 miles to get there and do the right thing. Well, good for him. All right, Jeff, listen, thank you for that story.
You're welcome.
That's a great little story. All right, let's go back to the phones as we promised, 888-589-8840. Let's begin with Connie in Frederick County, Maryland. Connie, welcome. What's on your mind?
Thank you for taking my call, Brian. And I just wanted to agree with you on our ministers in the mega churches.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the best thing for all of us to do is always remember them in prayer.
Yes.
And I also wanted to say that I am so very concerned about our country, and I feel purposely and methodically our president is changing all the identity of America and its people. And I am also concerned about this George Soros. He came here from England, and he came many, many years ago in the 40s. And I don't know whether he actually is a citizen of this country or not, but I certainly know the man is bad news.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish there was a way we could get rid of him.
Yeah. Well,
and also,
go ahead.
The illegals, they are not doing this alone. They have a national council called the La Raza.
Mm-hmm.
And La Raza is really bad news. They are being supported by, you would not believe all the companies in this country that is supporting these people. And I just think there should be a lot more said about this organization than is being said.
Well, and I appreciate your call, Connie. And, La Raza, I mean, this is an organization that is unapologetically racist. You know what La Raza means? It means the race. Everything for the race, nothing for those outside the race. That's their motto. Everything for the race, nothing for those outside the race. I mean, this is no different at all than any Aryan supremacy group, any white supremacy group, no different than the KKK at all whatsoever. No moral difference whatsoever. Their whole thing is the supremacy of the Latino race. And if you're not down with the supremacy of the Latino race, then they have absolutely no use for you. And speaking of George Soros, Connie's right to be very concerned about this guy. He's one of the richest men in the world, but he is using his wealth to promote causes that are actually harmful to America. And one of the things that George Soros is doing is he's funding an organization called the Evangelical Immigration Table, the EIT, and they are working for amnesty. We'll talk a little bit more about this as the program develops. We're going to have to fight our own team on this, ladies and gentlemen. The Republicans are set on amnesty. John Boehner set on amnesty. Robert Goodlatte, who's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee in charge of immigration, he's dead set on amnesty. Eric Cantor is dead set on amnesty. Paul Ryan is dead set on amnesty. Virtually the entire leadership in the House of Representatives, which is the one house that the Republican Party controls, they are committed to amnesty. And one of the groups that's working to promote amnesty is this Evangelical Immigration Table, and they're pushing for amnesty. And ladies and gentlemen, amnesty is not an evangelical position, because amnesty rewards people who break the law. It rewards criminal behavior. When you slice through all the fog, you get down to brass tacks, get down to bedrock. Amnesty rewards criminal behavior. Instead of punishing people who are criminally trespassing on American soil, it rewards them with a guaranteed path to citizenship. And our entire Republican Party leadership in the House is for this. They want to reward criminal behavior. And George Soros is putting a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, into this so-called evangelical group to promote amnesty. So Soros has even gotten his hands involved in trying to create this impression that evangelicals support amnesty when, trust me, evangelicals simply do not. Let's go to David in Tyler, Texas. David, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Well, Brian, I called about the people being Republicans who are in management or own businesses.
Yeah, and how many of them tend to be Republican or conservative? Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm a physician in Texas, and as you know, a lot of physicians are moving to Texas because of a favorable work environment. I brought a guy in from California who'd been working with Kaiser, a large HMO.
Yes, uh-huh.
And, of course, he never had to pay the bills, but when he came into private practice and he saw how the money came in and how we were having to pay 10 employees and all the expenses involved, he suddenly became a Republican. He was a lifelong Democrat, and he has become an extremely conservative person politically since actually seeing how the money comes in and goes out, how you have to pay the bills. It seems like when you work for a big company like these employees, you don't realize all the costs involved, but when you're in ownership or management, you understand all the costs involved, and it does tend to make you more conservative. Like I always tell people, I get paid less and I get to empty the trash.
Yeah. All right, David, listen, I appreciate that call. I've got to let you go. We're out of time, but that's a great comment. You know, David's a doctor in Tyler, Texas, says, look, just the reality of running a business, and you realize how much the government's slicing out of you, that'll make you conservative in a heartbeat.